This talk tonight is going to be focused on an idea that there is a general approach to child rearing that is compatible with what would be called wisdom, or the right way to go. Children are supposed to be under our instruction as parents, and that the major role of a parent is a teacher. The problem that comes from that is children are not necessarily students. A teacher is someone who imparts a lesson. That doesn't mean he presents a lesson. It means he gets the lesson into the other guy. If the lesson has not gotten into the other person, to where the person actually appropriates the knowledge of it and stays with the knowledge of it, then teaching did not occur. The other guy, in order to receive the lesson, has to be a certain kind of person that's called a student. A student is a learner. I'm using definitions now that are in the English dictionary right now, these two words. A teacher is one who imparts a lesson. A student is a learner. If you think about school, when you were in the 7th grade, if you look at the kids in the classroom, you say, well, there were 35 kids in the classroom. How many of them were actually learning in the classroom what was being presented? That would tell you what's the percentage of learners in the 7th grade classroom. It's English in the English national school systems. They actually use the word pupil for people who are in schools up through the 8th grade. And after that, they use the word student. The reason they do that is because prior to the 8th grade, for many years, it was not necessary to go beyond the 8th grade. And education was through the 8th grade, basically, which meant the person that somewhere around 14 years old would be through his education. If he went beyond 14 years old, he would be considered a high school student at that point, and high school typically would be not longer than 2 years. It was common for high school not to be something that was generally used by children at the turn of the century of, say, 1900, 1910. I remember my grandparents were out of school by the time they were 16 years old, and they were out working at 16. In fact, they were getting married and all kinds of stuff at 16. That was all normal. So in the English system, the word pupil is used to describe a person who is under the authority of a teacher. That's all. Pupil is one who is under the authority of a teacher. It has nothing to do with learning. It has to do with who's in charge. A student is a learner. And so then everyone in a 7th grade classroom would be pupils, with this definition. But only a percentage of them would be students, the ones who are actually learning what the teacher is teaching. You start out with children, they're not naturally students. A student is a person who has enough self-discipline to receive a lesson. Just an example, you all are sitting quietly right now and being very polite about letting me have control of this conversation, and you're listening to what I'm saying. With the appearance on your faces, I would guess that you're learning right now, and so this would make you all students and make me the teacher. I'm imparting a lesson, you're receiving a lesson. That's how that works. If someone was sitting in here like this, looking bored, or throwing a spitball at somebody on the other side of the room or something like that, I would say that person's probably not a student. And so teachers can perceive whether they're getting across a lesson or not by the attentiveness of the person who is supposed to receive the lesson. Parents are teaching all the time. We do not think of it as teaching. We think of it as just living in a house. Pick up your clothes, close the door, hang up your coat, come to supper, eat your broccoli. It goes on and on and on and on. These are commands. But these commands actually are instructions. And we commonly don't even think of them as commands. We just blab it. We just say it. Do this, don't do that, do this, don't do that. But what's actually going on is actually teaching. Now, if the child is a person who receives a lesson, then perhaps he learns from it. Eat your broccoli means when I'm sitting here in front of this green stuff here, I'm supposed to eat it. Well, he figures that out because he's a student. He said, well, so I see the green stuff, that means I eat it. Wouldn't that be nice? Let's go with there are other problems that come out of that. And this kid ends up not eating his broccoli. And so what are you saying again 3 days from now when you're serving your leftover broccoli casserole? You're saying eat your broccoli again. In other words, you're teaching the same lesson over and over. And the reason you teach the same things over and over is because the kid didn't learn it, I guess. If he learned it, it looked like he'd be doing it. But it looks like he didn't learn it. Now that doesn't mean he's not learning. The trouble is he's learning things that you don't intend for him to be learning. An example would be, eat your broccoli. He says, I don't like broccoli. You say, I said eat your broccoli. He says, I hate broccoli. You say, I don't care if you hate broccoli or not. I'm your mother, eat your broccoli. And he says, broccoli smells bad. Okay, now it may or may not be that when this meal is over with that he ate his broccoli. I don't know. But I'll tell you what he learned. What he learned is the table is a place where we come to argue. And apparently that's the kind of conversation we have at the table, is we have unpleasant argument at the table. It's also a place where I can challenge my parents' authority, and sometimes it works. He learned that at the table too. Did he learn to eat his broccoli? I don't know. Do you have to have that conversation again in 3 days? Chances are you do. Therefore, the chances are you didn't teach him to eat his broccoli, but you did teach him how to have arguments with you at the table. You all understand that? That's a little rough, but that's what's actually going on, because you're teaching. He's picking up lessons, but not necessarily the lessons you intend. Now, this is how it's supposed to work. We start life with children in this surreal time of nurturing. There is nothing between you and the child except nurturing. All you gotta do is provide what the kid needs. He needs milk, and then after a while he needs cereal or something, and he needs to have his diaper changed, he needs to be put down for a nap, little needs, and you take care of his little needs. And meanwhile, you hold him, and you love him, and you talk to him, and you talk to him, and you hold him some more, and you love him some more. This goes on for months. And there's no need to do anything except, I love you. That's all you're doing at this time. I love you. He says, I got that part. After 6 months, I got that part. You love me. That's all I get from you is love. There's no conflict between you and me. You know why there's no conflict? Because he's too young to obey, and it doesn't even occur to you to tell him to do anything. He could not obey you even if he knew what you were talking about. He doesn't understand your language. And he can't obey you. He doesn't have the physical capacity of self-control to do this. And yet, what's interesting to me is that parents still tell children what to do when they're that young. For instance, a little child completely accidentally hooks on, let's say, to your necklace. And you say, no, no, honey, don't pull mommy's necklace. And take his finger off of it, like that. That's harmless, it doesn't mean anything. But if he hooks it again, and you say, no, no, honey, don't pull mommy's necklace and take his finger off. And you do it again, and you do it again, and you do it again. After a while, not speaking your language, he says, I know how to get you to talk to me. Watch. No, no, honey, don't pull my necklace. Just like a little doll in the back. The child learns how to get you to talk. And this reminds him of this. And he loves this. He loves this kind of closeness. He loves you talking to him. Your words are everything to him, although he doesn't know what you're talking about when he's 6 months old. But let's say you did it right, and we don't introduce anything to him. So you come to a time when you say, okay, it's time for me to be in charge, and for you to understand I'm in charge, and I want to tell you what to do now. So, I don't know, a 9-month-old, 12-month-old, however, wherever you start with this, you say to him, no. He looks at you and says, you mean, don't touch that? That's what it means. No, it means don't touch that. And he goes, you mean that? He said, yeah, that, right there, don't touch that. You can see it on their faces. This is what they do. You say no. He goes, it looks at you, and looks back at it, and looks up at you again, and looks back at it again. And you can see that's what he's doing. He's figuring out, what do you mean? I said, what I mean is don't touch it. You're not saying this, you just said no, because he can't understand your language. And he withdraws from it and turns to you. And immediately, you're back in this condition again. That's the way it's supposed to work. As you just say it, the kid stops, looks at you, makes a choice, makes a decision, I will obey you. What do I do now? Come to me. I'm here, just come to me, just like we used to. Just like the old days, just come to me, I'll take care of it. And he turns to you. This is how it's supposed to work. When that works, then all he needs is practice in doing it right. The way he gets the practice is you say, Okay, you seem to have a problem with this thing here. Let's try this again. I'm going to put you in front of it. Now watch this. No. He said, not this again. I said, yeah, it's still here. It's not going anywhere. Leave it alone. The kid looks at it again and says, no means leave it alone and turn to mommy. Okay, got it. Turns to mommy again. Now, I'm not making this up. We've got videos of children doing this. I'm talking about 9 months of age. They actually turn from it, turn to mommy and say, what else? Take me. I'm here. Take me. I got it. And put the kid down in front of it again, saying, no. And the kid says, I'm okay with that. After a while, you put the kid down in front of it, the kid doesn't do it anymore. This is called practice. When I was a child, I learned to play baseball in sandlot baseball games all around the neighborhood, but I never had a coach until I was 15 years old. The very first time I ran into a baseball coach, he was watching me bat. There was a batting practice, and he was watching me bat. He said, can I tell you something about the way you bat? And I said, sure. I had never been coached before. He said, when you bat and the ball's going across the plate, you close your eyes like that. I said, I do? He said, yeah, I watched you do it. Every time you swing the bat, as the ball's going across the plate, you do that. I said, I didn't know that. He said, well, you do. He said, I bet you'd hit the ball more often if you didn't do that. Makes sense. The trouble is I've been doing it for too many years. I've been doing it this way for many years. And I could not learn to not close my eyes when I was swinging the bat. And I didn't get on the baseball team. Because I had practiced playing baseball the wrong way. I had learned how to not do it correctly. Children are trained in not doing things correctly all the time. And we don't realize this is what we're doing. Beyond the training in how to do it correctly is the stopping of the training of doing it incorrectly. But let's say if we train them how to do it correctly, we're aware of what we're saying, then life is idyllic. We just walk along life with our kids. Wouldn't that be nice? That's the way it's supposed to work. And I just told you how it's supposed to work. Now I'm going to show you what real life is like. We come up to the road and say, this is the right way to go. And the kid says, really? That's the way to go? He says, yeah, that's the way to go. He says, I don't think so. And he goes his own way. That's real life. He goes his own way, and we track him down, and then eventually we get into trouble with him. Now, this is a sad outcome for child rearing. This is how it commonly works, because we don't realize the significance of what's just now happened. We have just now given him authority. He has looked us in the eye and said, I know what you're talking about. You're saying you're in charge. Well, guess what? I don't agree. And this is because we think we're so big, and we're so strong, and we got so much smartness, and we got so much resources and things like that. We think we're in charge. And he said, no, it's not you, it's me. I'm in charge. Do you know how small you are, child? Do you know how uninformed you are? Do you know how little resources you have? He says, I don't care. I'm in charge. The Bible calls this foolishness. That a little person, no bigger than this, would look up at somebody bigger than that and say, but that's what they do. Okay, so that's what we're talking about now, is this person. This is the real guy. Where does he come from? How do we get into this trouble? Well, first of all, we don't realize the significance of it, and we throw a bunch of rules at him that we're not enforcing anymore. It's like a fly was buzzing around this little room right now. If there were to be a fly in here, he maybe lands on you for a second and buzzes away, and you might do this. And then he lands over here, and you do this. And he lands over here, and you do this. I'm watching all this. I'm watching the fly go around. I'm watching one person after another. I thought I was teaching in this class, and it turns out what I'm doing is tracking a fly going around the room. That would make me nuts. It really would. It would make me nuts. As a doctor, when I had a fly in an examining room with a patient, I would excuse the patient from the room politely and close the door. And after a minute or 2 minutes or whatever, you'd hear a loud noise, and then I would invite the patient back in again. But I couldn't stand working around flies. Flies around medical work just make me nuts. We swat at flies with children. Leave that alone. No, don't do that. No, come here. I said come here. How many times do I have to tell you to come here? Leave that alone. No, don't do that. Come here. We keep doing this, and we become irrelevant to them. And after a while, we get mad at them, and we lose it. And then all kinds of things come out of us. And we're not paying attention, but all kinds of stuff come out of us. And it still doesn't work. And the reason is because we're not realizing who we're working with. We are working with the real guy here. We're not working with this imaginary child who obeys us. This guy's in your dreams. This is the real guy that lives in your house. And we don't even see him anymore. We think he obeys us. We think he goes along with what we're saying. Your brother did. I did when I was a kid. I would never have gotten away with that when I was. We talk this way. It doesn't matter. He doesn't care. He said, hello, I'm here. That's who he is. And how he sees us now is not the way we see ourselves. We see ourselves as being in charge. And he sees us with our drawers on. And it doesn't make any sense to him that we think we're in charge. He doesn't understand where we get off thinking we're in charge. I'm talking about a 2-year-old child now. He doesn't reason through the reasoning that we do. I should be in charge for the following reasons. I can give you a whole list of reasons why I should be in charge of a 2-year-old. And he doesn't care. The parent is not a person who is running the show. The parent is not someone that I regard. Given that, I can do what I want to do. I can do anything I want to do. And a child is lawless, basically, and can do whatever he wants to do. The trouble is there's been, especially for school-age children, there's so much learning about authority that they've figured out an awful lot about authority that say, an 18-month-old child would not know. If you have a 7-year-old who doesn't fundamentally regard your authority, then you have a 12-year-old who doesn't regard it. It's a far more complex problem. But it still goes back to the same principles of you've got to establish yourself as the authority. You've got to say, I'm the guy that runs the show here, not you. And you have to get this point across in a way that does not offend DSS, and yet which is effective. And there's a way to do that.